Mark here for another great wisdom and knowledge. With everything going on in the world, we have brought back Matt Landman, expert in chemtrails, among many other things, 5G, you name it. Ian Ball and Allyson Allard, self-sabotage coach. Ian is in Montreal. Allyson's in the Northeast. Matt is in the Northwest, right?
Ashland,
Excellent.
Oregon. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, Matt, let's start things out with you because last time the four of us got together, you were about to go again over to Scotland, and you did. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. What's up, Ian,
Hey,
Allison, and Mark, and the
good to
world?
see you guys.
I went to Scotland for a second time for the second Stop Geoengineering Scotland rally in a different city, the city of Glasgow. First, I went to Edinburgh, completely different cities. One is like they give a lot of money to. It's the capital. It's got castles and it's really pretty. And one is like really run down, and the life expectancy is like 46 years old, and everybody's like Walking Dead zombies, like really unhealthy
Train
like
spot,
towns.
train spotting.
Yeah, exactly. Like just out of train spotting. I was lucky on this trip. I went to London as well, and I made some contacts in London and found out how much I appreciate that city. We both have these stereotypes. I'll get back to Scotland. It was great. Always there could be a better turnout, but the people that come, it's just a beautiful thing to have people of all walks of life come together and know that they're not alone and believe in knowing about chemtrails and whatnot. But also, I went to a small rally in London where this group goes and does these yellow board protests, where like a dozen of them have these signs and they go out on busy intersections and different topics. And they go out like twice a week on like climate change, is normal, and global warming is the whole squashing the global warming narrative, and then the digital prison, digital currency, all that sort of stuff. And there's a lot, and London is in the midst of they're part of the LEZ low emission zones. And so I've gone now to 3 low emission zone cities. In Scotland, they call it ULEZ, ultra low emission zones. Or no, in London, they call it ULEZ, ultra low emission zones, ULEZ. And the whole city of London is massive city. Okay, huge, huge city. It's so spread out. And then Glasgow and Edinburgh are also in the LEZ, low emission zone thing. And they have different rules, and it's all very hypocritical and stupid. But in London, I was happy to meet the people of that country and see how kind they were and not pompous. And, they think Americans are total cocky morons, and we think that they're uptight, a-holes. But yeah, there's all these stereotypes. But like, I mean, America alone, it's like people get one. What's crazy is people in other countries have this opinion that Americans are like this. It's like, I don't know about you guys. I've driven across the country over 12 times, and every single place is completely different. New Orleans compared to New York City, compared to Mississippi, compared to Arizona. Seattle, like all these places, like Hawaii, like everywhere is completely different. Someone from Idaho and someone from Florida are going to be complete. I mean, like you can't just generalize the United States. I mean, some countries, right? Some countries like it's less diverse, but so it was interesting to grasp all of that. So I'll just talk about the ULAs really quick because that's important, and then I'll pass the mic. So in the city of London, they have cameras everywhere. It's like out of control. Everywhere it has this CCTV, closed circuit television, and it makes it feel really safe. So like if you're on the subway, the underground rail or any rail, which there's all these rails everywhere, and you can be like alone all the time. There's all these alarms. You can just hit the red button, and then you're on camera. Everyone's on camera all the time, and people are like, there's very little violence because of all these cameras and this, safety through that policing. And so because there's cameras everywhere, they're monitoring all the streets. And if you have a car that's more than, I think it's 8 years old, then every time it moves, you get a charge. You get ticketed, auto charge ticketed 12 pounds, 12 quid, they call it. And that to us is like It's almost 20 bucks. It's like $18 every time the car moves. So if you got to drive your car every day, you're getting tickets, just tickets, tickets. It's not like you drove into the city of London and you went through the barricade and you get the ticket in the toll booth. It's like you got a car in your driveway. If you move it across the street, you're getting a ticket
That's
because it's more than eight
insane.
because it's more than 8
How
years
long have
old,
they
right?
been doing that? When did that
Uh, a
start?
couple a couple years, right?
Oh
And
my
then
God.
it's the same in Glasgow, but it's a little different where how they monitor it. In some places, there's like different loopholes where if it's like a really expensive car but it's old, it's okay. But people are driving like Land Rovers and Hummers and all these things that are gas guzzling, lots of emissions. It's not about the emission; it's just about how new the car is. So if you have an older car, you're just getting this crazy tax, and people are protesting it and cutting down cameras, and a lot of people aren't paying the tickets, and it's different over there. I was like, what if you don't pay the tickets? Don't you have this big fine and then you can't get your car registered? And they don't have registration on their tags like we do every couple of years, which is fascinating. And then I learned that like they will find you and boot your car though, like if you get too
Yep.
many tickets. So people have these fake boots where they'll park and put a boot on their car so it looks like, oh, don't worry, this car's
Oh,
booted, because there's
wow.
all these different boot companies. But yeah, it was wild being over there. But
Super
being back in
dystopian.
Scotland was cool
Scary.
too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, one more thing. Yeah, very dystopian. One more thing was after I left, and I talked to all these people about how wet and cold it's been because they haven't seen the sun hardly. In different parts of the world, the weather's engineered differently. Where I live, they'll create forest fires and create drought, and in Florida, they'll create a hurricane and steer it right towards the city or whatever. Different places they do it differently. And in the United Kingdom, in Ireland, Scotland, Britain, they've had the wettest season that they've ever witnessed. Like 15 weeks of no sun kind of thing, just like constantly cold and wet. And then literally they came out and said that it was the hottest May on record, which it was not. I just spoke to everyone. I was over there in May and it was miserable. And then like everyone started arguing with it. What do you mean it's the hottest May on record? No, it wasn't. And then they had to come out with new news that said, oh, it's actually the nights were warmer while you were sleeping. It is hot.
They're just trying to gaslight everybody.
Yeah, of course. Always. Always, always.
Because no one's going to look up the data, the actual weather history data, or look at the government data on the actual weather stations, except that it's skewed by being an urban center. That's a whole other issue. But anyways,
I think everything's control of the data. I mean, like, how can we, like, if you were a trillionaire, if I was a trillionaire and I was trying to control the world, control the weather and all those things, I would own the flight apps. I would, corroborate my lies and make sure everyone was in the dark. I would own like all these different things. I would own the misinformation sites. I would be picking data and changing data and buying scientists. Like, there's so many things that can just be twisted to
yes,
to fit their story.
You can't trust anything. They say we're a certain amount of money in debt. That number could be completely fictitious. We have no idea how much we're in debt. You can't trust anything. You can't even really trust the populations of like a state. I don't know. I question everything. I don't know how you can know what anything is.
Right.
Really.
It's all numbers. I mean, it's all what we're being fed, right? How can you
different
trust it?
layers and flies. Yep.
Mhm.
Like didn't you say something once about how much money we're sending to the Ukraine? It's like that's probably completely made up. We could be sending no money to the Ukraine. Like honestly, if they're telling us something, they're telling you misinformation because that's what they do.
Or that they're just sending it for money laundering purposes or whatever. Yeah.
Well, then we
Yeah.
get to, cultivate our gut instincts and gut intuition. I think that's one of the reasons why we get fed so many lies. It's kind of like an evolutionary process of sorts. You know what I mean? How's the weather over there, Mark? You guys getting heated up?
Yeah, well, normally it rains all the time because we're in North Carolina, right? And it's not raining that much at all sometimes, but not like it was last year. So something's going on, We haven't had anything from that. What's the current one, that one in Miami? They're saying Miami's getting washed out right now. Did you
Oh
hear
yeah, I
about
don't
did.
even
that?
know.
Yeah.
I didn't see the name of it, but I did see flooding in Fort Lauderdale or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, wow,
it's
I should
pretty
ask my sister.
constant.
She lives there. I
Yeah.
should ask her.
Ask her, find out, what is really going on because we don't even know anymore. And That's the thing. I think, especially over here, I would say in 2024, Matt, what do you think of this theory? I think a lot more people are waking up in 2024 than they did to the, lockdowns in 2020 and everything that happened in 2020.
A lot of people are waking up to chemtrails. Definitely, I've got a little gauge in my world. How many people are emailing me asking me like elementary level questions because they're just waking up, right? Like, what are they spraying and why would they do it to themselves? And just these like, but I get a lot more questions more recently. I think there is like a controlled awakening by design because they have to introduce geoengineering as a solution soon, and they don't want to just completely blindside a lot of people. So I think they're warming people up to it. Like the Dubai, like I think for one, the Tennessee, the whole thing
Yes.
about Tennessee banning
Yes.
chemtrails.
Oh,
When I was in Europe, everybody was talking about it. I mean,
Mhm.
on the other trip, I went to Europe as well, but this time I just went to the UK. But people were like at the yellow board thing, people had signs that said Tennessee banned chemtrails, and there was a newspaper article about it. So they are really using that as something to be proud of. Like if they can do it, we can do it. So I didn't have the heart to be like, I really don't think it's true, but I think that there is a consciousness shift by design to bring it to the world in their own way because it's always controlled every time, and right now it started with the Dubai floods, and they're using that as like a way to spoon feed the public. Like, oh well, if Dubai can, because I saw some articles even recently. It's like, well, if Dubai can make rain, should we consider making rain to put out forest fires? It's like, yeah, idiots, you knew that the whole time. Come on, don't play dumb with me. But the public are like, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe we could put out a forest fire with cloud seeding since Dubai did it and all. Yeah,
Oh
Dubai,
my gosh.
yeah.
you know. So I see it
Yes.
as like a warm up. They're warming people up for the next conversation, whatever it may be. I've been doing a lot of research. Oh, I could go on so many tangents. I've been doing a lot of research trying to make the movie Frankenskies too.
Mhm.
And it's like sometimes I don't get anywhere, and then sometimes there's these breakthroughs. And I've had a lot of doors open just recently, and I uncovered a lot of research. One of them is this news footage from like the 90s, early 90s, and it's like Bill Gates, the hurricane master or whatever, and he's like, "Can you really control hurricanes, Bill Gates?" And he's like, "Yes, indeed, I can control hurricanes if I want." And it's like, we got the patents, we got the technology. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I never saw this one. Another one that was really
Where do
fascinating
you
from the
find your stuff? Like when you're
early
looking for
60s.
stuff, where do you go?
There's like just troves of information. Some places have like somebody's YouTube channel and they have a bunch of stuff that goes back a decade, or like some
Certain
Google
people's YouTube
Docs,
channels.
or
Okay.
like archives somewhere, the university or something. Just somewhere there's like some trove, and it ends up being like hundreds of not like nonsense. A lot of it's just
Yeah.
like things that I don't
Yeah.
agree with, disinformation,
Yeah.
clips of nonsense. So you really got to use your gut and become like a. I was really obsessed with the stock market for like 10 years. It was pretty good at digging around and finding the gems. So that's kind of like what I'm doing in this instance. So this one,
The patents are quite revealing actually. Just looking at the
no
history of the
kidding.
patents in aerospace, like that alone is shows you what
Yeah,
they're.
Smoking gun.
Yep.
you can really use the patents to get down the rabbit hole. In this instance, I found this this French guy who was like, he was just like talking mad smack, like telling me I need to do more research, and he's telling me that everything is based on astro solar power, like that there's all these like solar powers in space, and like all these videos are just, they're all like CGI and nonsense. But in this was this different terms that led me to different searchings, because they don't always use the word geoengineering or chemtrails, and it's like you dig and then you end up under this term tropospheric aerosol engineering, or
Mhm.
macro solar engineering, and just different random terms. And what I found in the early 60s, this bit, and that there was like, it's like the Air Force in conjunction with the airlines, and they're like, we don't want contrails anymore because they leave a line in the sky and it's causing pollution, la-ti-da. So we've created this means of a contrail dissipation device, and we're outfitting these on all the planes, so there won't be any contrails anymore. So like this is like literally they knew that these lines were in the sky from the heat of the engines at the time, because these engines were older and like they were making contrails. And then in the mid 60s, they figured out how to outfit the planes to make them not have contrails. So like after the 60s, anything that you're seeing is something being thrown up in the sky to like experiment or whatever, or maybe they haven't been quite outfitted yet. But like that whole transition out of that technology is like, that's fascinating as well. And then kept hush hush. But I've been really excited about that. And maybe Mark, I can put you on to like some of these people that I'm interviewing. There's a soil sciences guy who's really well researched, who knows how to create these microbes in the soil that eat heavy metals, which is amazing. I'm going to go interview him. But also this food forest guy that you may already know in Orlando, who is very well versed on what the chemtrails, aluminum doing to the trees and all this sort of stuff. So a lot of things are opening up for Frankenskies too, and hopefully, you know, we find the right people and get that in the mix soon. It's all, you know, unraveling and important, but all in God's hands. You know what I mean?
What's your goal for when you're trying to get that released, do you think?
I'm thinking like the beginning of next year is basically where I'm going to have to push it. I thought maybe they'd do some psycho like climate change lockdowns or something like that, but it looks like that we're just slowly working our way to you know, dystopia from people not being able to procreate eventually. I think basically they got all their ducks in a row now. I don't know. I can't look into my crystal ball, but it seems like if I was in charge, I'd kind of take a step back right now and be like, okay, everyone's got a 5G phone in their pocket. Let those people procreate. And those kids that get born into this psycho world where Disney is programming all this other stuff, when they get old enough, probably they won't be able to have kids, and then we'll have our little dystopia.
Yeah, so that's a great point, Matt, because it's like it's a multi-generational agenda that they have. They're playing a chess game that they're kind of way ahead, and they're able to kind of sit back when the pressure comes on, like you said right now, with all this so-called populism and far right, you know, in the the EU Parliament that just passed. There was they won quite a bit of seats in the EU Parliament, and now Macron is throwing in this going to dissolve Parliament, have an election, and you know, so they know that they push too hard, but it's like we have to start thinking in a multi-generational. We have to predict their moves and understand the way that they're trying to continue this agenda. Maybe in a more soft way, or just waiting for the right moment for the next generation that's been, like you say, exposed to all the propaganda, you know, and they have their 5G, like you said, like they're setting them up, it seems. So,
although there's places that are way worse, like you're talking about London and how off, like that's horrible. Like we're not seeing that, but they're seeing that there with those fines that they're getting for they're making it impossible to live. Like, oh, I'm really smart. I hang on to my old vehicle. I take care of it. You know, maybe you're even a handy person. You take care, you do your own oil changes, you do it, and they're like making it impossible for somebody to have an older vehicle. And, you know, they're just killing people.
Certain places where I think they decide that, okay, this is an opportunity. They look at all the variables and say, okay, this place is where we can push our template, our model, and then they go for it. You know, like they seem to really, like, for example, in Australia, they just passed into Parliament without any kind of resistance, digital ID, right? So it's like they just know where to apply the pressure or the model in different places. Like in Edmonton, they're really ramping up the 15-minute city model there. So yeah, different places where they try to just push the model.
Like pilot cities, or see what happens.
Yep.
But let's talk. Yeah, exactly. So what do y'all think about the Tennessee bill? I think I keep seeing a lot of things. People are like, "Oh no, it's supposed to start June 1st," and then people are like, "No, it's going to start July 1st." I mean, at the end of it all, like time will pass, and I feel like it'll just like take away people's hope. Basically, we'll be like, "Oh, we were so excited. We thought it was going to end it," and then slowly they'll talk to, "Hey, you live in Tennessee, but it's past July 1st. But what do you mean? You know?" And it's like, some people will still think those 2 years from now, people will still be saying it, you know, like, oh, but they banned it in Tennessee at least, so there is hope.
But what about the evidence in the sky itself, Matt? Like, if there are, like, do you have contacts in Tennessee, that would be observing the skies on a regular basis that could give some feedback on that? I mean, that's probably where there's
a good point.
A large sense of evidence in terms of whether it's ramped down or they're just, or completely stopped it.
I have contacts in Tennessee that said that nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. Okay, so that's.
I think that during the summer months, oftentimes they'll let up on the aluminum.
People are outside.
Yeah. Well, I think they want to create heat waves, and there's certain ways to do that. You can trap in the heat, or you can spray barium and mess with the UVs and let it blast. Like, I think that more so you're going to see these grid patterns during different seasons. I think that the summers are more clear for different reasons, but they'll still be out there with like their shorter trails, creating like different conditions and winds and heat. I don't know. Where I live, the lines are more on in the winter and fall and spring. And the summer, they really try to just like get it heated up, and they'll shift the UV and mess with it in that way and crisp up the trees. But the sun is out where I live in the summer to get these heat patterns. I mean, every single heat wave that we've had this year has been engineered to some degree, is what I've witnessed. So this whole we're having to deal with global warming. I don't think that like there's different scientific like approaches and studies, and some people say that we're in a heating period anyways, and people look at this historical data. I think that, like Allyson was saying, like, how can we trust any historical data? Like, how can we trust any of it? They're saying, oh, we're really in an ice age, or, oh, no, we're really in a heating period. No, look at these. It's all confusion tactics. It's like, let's just deal with our lifetime, what we can remember. I mean, like, there's nothing drastic that needs to happen. We're not in some sort of situation that needs to be confronted. That's the real issue.
Well, to a certain extent, I mean, I see a certain consistency in the historical weather side of things. And there's certain things that they can't necessarily change, because I'm involved. Actually, I have to use weather data in my work, historical weather data. So, I mean, and just the different scientists that come out and talk about the very, like the cooling, the mini ice age and things like that. And there's evidence in the paintings as well that say, I mean, okay, the paintings could have been, how far you want to go down that rabbit hole, but yes, the Thames froze over, it appears, and they had markets on, and gain activities on the ice, on the Thames and things like that. So there seems to be some points that seem to be consistent, and the way that the scientists describe it as well, and so forth. So, I mean, being a bit involved with science myself, I can see some validity in that side, but of course, all the climate alarmists are only focusing on cherry picking the most like very recent ones. And even that is becoming difficult. That's why they had to change, as they had to change the term from global warming to some nebulous, climate change, silliest.
It's so vague. No, you don't even know what it means. Like,
exactly.
Someone says, it doesn't mean anything.
Climate change. Yeah. What a stupid and loaded question is that? Of course I believe
it's like fake COVID.
Changes.
Like, what are the symptoms? Stuffy nose. It could, like, these random things that could be anything. You can't smell and you can't taste. Like, that's anytime you have a stuffy nose for any reason, you can't smell or taste. This is stupid. Right?
Yeah. Like, that was some sort of special symptom that defined COVID. Yeah, exactly.
My response to the freezing of the Thames River, which is in England, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. My response to that would be, and then people would say, oh, well, based on that cherry-picked little like artwork or whatever, that means we're going into that we're heating, right? The biggest elephant in the room, I mean, this massive pink elephant, like glowing in the dark, is geoengineering, and they're steering jet streams, right? So they're steering jet streams, and the almost obvious explanation there would be that they're giving England an El Nino, or whatever they want to call it, which is, bringing warmer weather up there so that they can pitch their story to them. Because like you said, they pick these different more pacifist. You notice it's the United States is like the very last one that they're going to mess with. It's like, okay, Texas, we'll leave you for last. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we're going to go for Edmonton and Australia and whatever. And it's like, yeah, the people of England are being a little bit more blindsided, you know, because, you know, I mean, jet streams everywhere are being shifted and whatnot. But it's like where I live in this volcanic region, which I think that they're changing their whole MO to flood the crap out of us. I've noticed, like imagine you're in your evil boardroom. It's like, yes, we can create drought. It takes, you know, 5-10 years. But if we keep droughting them out and then lightning storm and make the wind go the right direction, we can burn them out. It's like, yeah, but also, what if we just create like way more ice than ever and just flood them out? All these cities are on like major rivers and whatnot. And I think that they've realized that the easier way would just to make floods. Because right now, all of a sudden, all of our reservoirs are like at record highs, like all of them where I live in the West Coast. Everyone's like, wow, that's so amazing. But anymore, we're going to be having floods. And they're removing, the Biden administration is removing 5 dams from this critical river right here that provides electricity to 70,000 people. That's something. But also it like manages the flow of the river during like floods and whatnot, so that we don't get all washed out.
What's the fake reason? What's the fake reason that he's saying that he's doing
Rewild America? Rewild America, which means anti-humans. Really, it's rewilding. Allyson, have you ever heard of it?
What?
Rewilding.
So recuperating like natural like reserves and trying to get everybody into the cities because we're so mean to nature.
Yeah, we're so bad to nature that, I mean, and where I live though, it's like completely natured out. Like it's like little cities and then surrounded by nothing but land, and you know, I mean, it's just. I live in a very rural area. It's very wild. It's already very wild. But they want to take these regions and because you know humans have been so bad, they want to rewild them. It's Agenda 2030. It's textbook Agenda 2030. It's creating zones that are not livable zones because they're you know taken back by the environment. So they're going to take the people off the land and tell them you can't live here, you can't live here, based on certain reasons like wildfire problems, or we got to give this back to the salmon or whatever, or you know this land has been deemed an environmental safety zone, you know, national park or whatever. Get out of here. It's rewilding. So yeah, they want to rewild it and bring back salmon as well, which I like the whole salmon concept. But when the dams have been in place since the 60s and they're there for specific reasons to irrigate farmland that's right there needing it and to regulate the flow of the water, and big reservoirs for when there's fires, because that's a thing, and the hydroelectricity, which is very green last time I checked, you know, and then the removal project is freaking out of control, astronomical. And most of the money to raise the like $50 million to start removing these dams, they just jacked up everyone's power bill that they're about to take their power from. So they like literally take it from the people that are about to lose their electricity. I don't know how they're going to have power, but anyways, it's a whole thing. But yeah, that's all unraveling under the guise of, you know, climate change. But when you're shifting jet streams and making it warmer here and colder there and whatnot, like Pakistan had some unreal floods because like where there's like a normal hydrological system, you've got a lot of elevation change. So you've got like the Rocky Mountains, and over there it's like the Himalayas and whatnot. But it's like when you can dump too much snow in the mountains and superheat that with HARP or whatever and create floods, that's going to create a lot more damage and, you know, pushing people around more than anything. I feel like, I think that might be the new, you know, game that they're trying to pull off, at least in the West Coast. So that'll be something to, you know,
talking about water. See, Calgary just had a very like major infrastructure disruption in their water supply. A massive supply pipe the size that you could drive a small car through apparently burst, you know, because of whatever aging infrastructure or just bad maintenance practices overall. And so now they're trying to institute like all these very restrictive water conservation measures as well. So the other side of the equation is that they're also trying to use water as a way to, you know, another angle to bring in control and say you cannot take a shower between these, you know, literally, you know, restricting your water usages and then maybe even introducing penalties. In some places, obviously, they already have that, where they'll give you I guess, a ticket if you're running your sprinklers at the wrong time of the day or
Mhm.
even using it. So,
I think that stuff came up in 2020, that summer.
mhm.
That was a very dry summer, or at least here it was. Like
California's
everybody's
been doing it for years too, I think.
everybody's lawns were like burnt to a crisp that summer.
Hmm.
This is the first summer after fake COVID that summer. There there was
Yeah.
no we weren't getting any rain that summer.
Hmm. Yeah, which ties into what you're saying, Matt, is that perfectly they can orchestrate droughts, and then they have more than one way to kind of control the population with that type of weather control mechanism.
Yeah, it seems like that they have a lot of tools in their tool belt, and they'll just use whichever ones are the most, in line with their agenda and just destructive, really, where they're at. I mean, they were blaming the floods on Pakistan. A few years ago, they were blaming the white world. They said because the Western world. I don't mean to say white, but it's pretty much when they point the finger like that. They say the Western world hasn't come together and addressed these problems well enough that it was interesting that it's our fault that we need to come together and create some fund and do something about this climate change. Another thing that I witnessed in England is all the publications are just hate Donald Trump. Like every
Oh yeah.
news, every media, like they've got the Epoch Times, EPOCH Times on the TV, and they were just nonstop saying that the solar flare is going to lock out electricity. The last solar flare almost knocked out electricity. They had these surge stations on Earth that the solar flares, when they want to ground out, and we're due to lose all of our electricity. The Carrington event of 1859, it's going to happen again, blah, 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 blah. And in between all that programming, it was like the world is going to end if Donald Trump gets elected. Because
Wow.
all of their green initiatives, like they've set initiatives for 2025, initiatives for 2030, and nothing is going to work out if Donald Trump gets into office, because he's like anti-green, supposedly, because he's all in bed with the oil and coal and dirty energy and all that sort of stuff, which is actually kind of plays out for them. So I think what'll happen is Donald Trump gets elected, then the world is like, oh, see, we can't even do our stuff because of him. We can't even do all those ULEDs and electric cars and all those things that we're trying to do, because all these cities in England that are like, by 2030 we're going to be net zero, like no carbon footprint, because everything is regenerative and sustainable and all these clutch words that they throw around. But they say they can't meet their goals worldwide if Trump comes in, because he doesn't support all those signatures and things, and it's all just going to get thrown away, all these treaties, and they're going to have to do something else, like which to me
They're just polarizing everybody per usual.
Just
yeah,
imagine
but
if France elects Marie Le Pen.
Le Pen.
Yeah, maybe that Paris Accord might end up getting scrapped anyways, or well, not necessarily, but yeah, it's not only Trump that's really apparently going to be a threat to their agenda. Yeah.
I mean, they're all
So
they're all in
imagine,
the club together. It's just so
Yeah.
stupid. Like if we
Yeah.
could see them all right now, they're all hanging out together in a room,
Oh,
Oh
sure.
yeah, it's like
laughing
the
their asses off.
WWF. Yeah.
Well, Matt, that's one thing I wanted to ask you. Is that's one where like the 20 somethings, you name it, are waking up left and right, because especially I was telling Allison to watch that movie. I don't know if you've seen it, Matt, Israelism. It just breaks down. It breaks down how much, we don't live in America. We don't. There's no way that and I don't care, I'm not about flags. I'm about, humanity, like the four of us are. But the amount of money that they are, funding, that APEC is funding every single candidate, both sides, people are waking up, these college age students. And I'm with all of you, college is an indoctrination. I get that, but these people are being a voice. These people are waking up, and they want to silence you left and right, on all platforms. So
Probably why that
this is a
weather's so
positive.
bad too. Like
Yeah.
the weather you said was really bad in the UK. Like what, a lot of rain, did you say? In London?
seems like it's keeping him depressed, it seems like.
Right, exactly, because you need the
Hmm.
sun for consciousness to open up the pineal gland, so you just keep everybody down.
Mm.
I'm sure I know there's like multiple reasons they do all the things they do, but that's certainly helping.
No, everybody's miserable over there. It seems like that's part of the game for sure. So what I think they're gonna do is get Trump in there for 4 years, and he's gonna say some dumb things about, climate change isn't real or whatever, and they're gonna say that he's gotten us so back in the dark ages that now we are left with no choice. You know what I mean? To geoengineer, but the geoengineering is all part of like the dirty coal, and they've been backing that for a while because they've got their, you know, that this is all like been planned out for some time, so they all know it's coming, and they're just trying to pretend like that they're not behind it. Like they already have invested money in geoengineering, knowing that it's going to be posed as the solution to the problem that they're causing, that they're not even really causing. So it's like they're going to pretend like, oh well, we tried to make you some good electric cars, but these don't work well enough, and we're going to have to resort to geoengineering and 15-minute cities, but don't worry, you'll own
Don't you
up and
wonder,
be
like,
happy.
like their end game, like what they're trying to do here exactly? Because I feel like they could get rid of a lot of people a lot faster if they really wanted to. I almost think they like it. Like
It's a
it's
good
like a
point.
game. Like they like playing around with us.
Think they
You know
feed
what I
off
mean?
misery.
Yeah,
Well,
they
they
want to
feed off
kill a lot of
misery,
us,
so
but they could do it a lot quicker.
the more people that are miserable, it just
Yeah,
feeds into them, I
they
think.
feed off that energy, right? That
Yeah.
because I think they would in because what if tomorrow they could be like, okay, we're all dead. We're down to what, 500 million, like on the Georgia Guidestones? Is that what
Oh
they
yeah.
want?
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it though, because they like it. They enjoy it. I think they like dragging it out over time. I think they like making us all miserable. I think they like playing with us.
Oh,
Power over
100%.
7 billion
Yeah.
is more exuberant than over 500 million.
Well, it's a numbers game for them, and it's like a frequency. The frequency's being overwhelmed by all the NPCs and all the brainwashed people. And if they've got 95% brainwashed, why would they knock the numbers of all the people down on Earth? They could mess up their percentage game. Like especially if they killing a bunch of people would wake a bunch of people up. But I think there's like karmic disclosure, and there's reasons why they can't just line everyone up. They have to make people create their own demise, which they're doing slowly but surely, and that's why they have to like disclose things as they do it, and there's certain principles that they have to play, which is very weird, but they have the rule book too, which isn't fair, but I think that there's a lot more at play than we could grasp. Like yeah, they love toying with us, but they need us alive, like emitting. Like my grandma, she's 95, she's totally completely asleep in all the different ways. Like she thinks that everything mainstream is real and all this stuff. And I was thinking about it. It's like, dude, like she's like the most easiest one to take out. I know it's horrible to say, but it's like the people that are like 100 years old, you give them their last booster and they could all be gone so easy, but they keep them alive on purpose because they're emitting a frequency of ignorance. Like they're keeping everybody down, if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, one of us emitting like a positive light and opening our hearts probably negates like 10,000 of those people. But still, there's so many people emitting and broadcasting that lower frequency that it's like, imagine a radio station. Imagine a boombox, like with that you can tune, or a carable radio that you can carry around, like a boombox, and you can tune it to all these different stations, but it's only got this certain bandwidth. It can go from like 900 AM or whatever all the way up to whatever, but it's got a lowest frequency and it's got a highest frequency because that antenna is a certain height and it can only reach this certain things. So the lowest frequency is like pulling everyone down, you know what I mean? Like the rotten apple or whatever metaphor you want to work with. So it's like, I think they're keeping a lot of people alive on purpose because they keep it alive. Like they've got this nostalgic programming. Like they watched the moon landing and didn't ask a single question. They were like literally programmed, and they'll defend it to the day they die too, because it's part of their childhood, part of their livelihood, and everything.
They're also very strong advocates for vaccines, by the way.
Oh,
they had
big time.
Tremendous, like they got a captured audience right there because it was.
And gun control. I've seen that headline hitting it a lot recently too.
Yeah. Wow.
Like all those things,
yeah.
I
Insane.
think all those things are planned out. And so the next generation is what they're really worried
No,
about.
I just watched a video, Matt, and it's called Beta Test. and it was filmed in Seattle. I watched a few of these, same director producer, and they're trying to keep guns in video games, but the video game turns into reality. And you go into a bank, you're shooting up the bank, and it's really happening. You're the one doing that with the video game controller. It's like,
And how
Have you
does
seen
that make any
Existence or
sense? Like, we're
have you seen
against
the movie
violence.
Videodrome?
Like, that makes no sense at all. And kids play those video games. That doesn't make any sense to come out like in.
Desensitization. They've been,
Yeah, it doesn't make any
yeah.
sense to, on one hand, be like, we're against violence. Take all the guns away, and then put out these video games. Like, it doesn't make sense
It's all part of their plan.
if you're thinking, but people don't think.
No, they don't.
No, the program is deep, especially with the children. I mean, that's how they get to them. It's like if you watch any of the Disney shows or anything, it's like constantly with all. I think it's to disrupt your intuition and your connection to self and source and all that sort of stuff. The children are so dialed in. It's like, but then you plug them with rocket ships, space, dinosaurs. They don't tell you one thing about the real world. Like, I mean, I've seen these kid shows. I told my girlfriend the other day, if they say the word photosynthesis, I'll eat my hat. It was space, dinosaurs, evolution from monkeys, but nothing about the real world, that would be grounding and natural and stuff like that. So I'm more apt to, like, I got us a net and we go out and catch tadpoles and do real things in nature. Like it should be like my childhood was, because these parents, we're not creating any decent humans by getting the kids adopted to technology. Like real childhood memories are formed in the real world and nature. And yeah, they're trying to get people into a point where they don't know the difference between just the video game and real life. That's why the graphics are getting better and better.
An iPad child is very, like, the next level of social engineering. The iPad child. So this is like the new generation is like automatically kind of addicted already to iPads, and they become completely, they lose, not only they just become so absorbed into it, they actually lose the ability to write, because they don't spend time using crayons and drawing things and using their imagination. And as soon as that iPad is even taken out, they go absolutely berserk. So I mean, it started off with the iPhones with with the previous generation, because I saw that with my own daughter and how, like, it got out of control. Now it's with the iPad, and we see these videos of children completely going berserk. So that's just taking them, completely dissociating them from reality at that point.
And then they don't have any attention span, because everything on a phone or is like 20-second bits or 30-second bits, and they're so used to scrolling that they can't. Real life looks boring. Like, you can't just like ride in a car and look out the car window and look at a tree or look at the sky. That's boring. Like, I need more stimulation. It's
attention
that's a problem.
just completely obliterated with all these just short attention.
It's really sad. Like, my 15-year-old daughter has her earbuds in. I didn't buy them for her AirPods all the time, like almost all the time. And I'm really worried about what those things are doing to her.
I noticed when I was in London, almost everyone had those. Like, everyone's disconnected, and everyone's with the earbuds in their ears. Regarding the children and the iPads, parents don't grasp. There's so many different things that are creating the dopamine hit that are making these things addictive. I've seen people that work with autistic children and adults, and they're really susceptible to the addiction. And you take the device from them, and they'll literally have an opiate withdrawal, like a complete meltdown, like they're on heroin. But there's one is the EMF radiation coming off the device, and it's like it's predatory,
going
it's
towards
toxic.
the genitals.
Yeah, and it's right there.
Because that's where you put it on your lap.
And that the EMF is actually addictive in many ways. Your body thinks it's light, so your endocrine system, your hormonal system, your whole endocrine system is laid out through your skin, and then that's connected to your dopamine receptors, your serotonin, melatonin, all these things that dictate your sleep, your circadian rhythm. So the EMF really takes its toll. But also the blue light coming off of the devices is super predatory on developing eyes, and that also messes with this overload in your system and messes with your hormones. It's so much blue light we can't even see it because it's on the edge of the spectrum into the spectrum of unseeable blue light, but it makes your whole body think that you're in bright light, and that it's actually really toxic, the blue light. And the Harvard research study says that there's going to be an epidemic of children of blindness and macular degeneration because these kids that are growing up with it, their eyes are absorbing it into their developing retinas, and by the time they're in their mid-20s, a lot of kids are going to be blind just from blue light.
God.
And so these devices have all this blue light cranking off it, and parents don't know. But even worse, I mean, not even worse, these things are really bad. But what I think is the absolute worst about it all is the flicker rate. These things, these devices are flickering. They're putting these kids in a trance. I mean, my adult brain can't hardly handle it. If I'm staring at someone's, like if I just got someone's device and looked at it for 10 minutes, like I can feel myself being put into a trance. It's like the opposite of sunlight or natural incandescent light or candlelight or firelight. The flicker rate of these screens is so fast. It's like blinking on and off so fast that we can't see it. Right? We can't see that it's on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. But it's flickering on and off so much that that's putting the kids into this little trance state, and then they're zooming through and scrolling and doing these little Snapchat little bits, but they don't realize that they're being like absolutely hypnotized, put into like this trance of mind control, something that the natural world's not going to do. And that's why they're so overstimulated, because the natural world's not flickering on and off at hundreds of times per second. It's just not. And it's not natural at all, but it makes you addicted to that. It makes your body craving that. And then when
it
you're
almost
in the
seems like
natural
porn
light, it's
for
not
kids.
the same.
Like it seems like
it
like
is.
the porn idea for kids.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Scary. So scary. Then they have YouTube for kids. I mean, not that I've ever watched it, but I'm sure it's awful. And then what ads are they using? I'm sure there's ads on
that's a
there,
good point.
and they're targeting the kids.
Yeah, all of it's ridiculous. I've seen what the
I
kids
hate that
watch
parents give their kids
nowadays.
their phones. I see it at games. Like my daughter plays softball. They'll have younger siblings, like little kids, and the kids are bored, so they'll give them their phone. The parent will give them the phone to look at, like a 2-year-old or something, or a 3-year-old to. Like they don't know what to do without. They're just trying to keep them quiet for a couple hours.
Like a electronic babysitter.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really surprising that the parents don't do very much research on the devices that they're handing to the kids. They just trust, big pharma, big telecom, all of they trust the telecommunications provider over natural sciences and what have you. Like basically, if they grew up like thinking that phones are okay, even though the technology has shifted in a whole new arena and like 5G is nothing like its predecessors, that the parents just kind of trust that since it never impacted them too bad, it's not going to impact their children. But it's like we didn't grow up with all of this inundation of technology.
Not at all.
Not even
Yeah,
one
it's a
bit.
social experiment that's really we're just at the cusp of even beginning to understand what the impacts, and now it's going into a whole new level, including 5G. Like you say, when you're talking about EMF, not only get that direct exposure, now the signals that are going to be coming from the 5G local towers. Oh, it's just it's a total Frankensteinish like social experiment. We just don't even know where it's going.
Well,
Matt, have you heard anything about?
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about them? And does this play into the 5G? Like I've watched videos that they're radiating us at night. If you know what I mean, in the skies, they're saying that they're radiating us. They show the Doppler radar, and it makes pretty good sense, at least where I am, because I've noticed like on a nightly basis, like I'm as healthy as can be, but I'll be like sneezing like crazy, or my eyes will be like all red and as such, like not necessarily red, but burning. And it'll happen at night, like late at night. Do you think that they're, radiating us at night? Is that
I've seen
true?
those videos. Yes and no. I've seen those videos of the Doppler radar, and those are. I've been trying to wrap my head around those because Doppler does have to blast out those signals to get the feedback to do the radar, to look at the weather systems. So are those videos showing that Doppler is radiating us, or are they just because they are, but do those videos show that? I'm not 100%.
Okay.
But what does happen, and one thing I know this is going to be a little off topic. One thing I wanted to mention before I forget is it's commonplace in Britain for the schools to just stop the class and go do these inhaling vaccines. They do one nose,
Oh,
one nose.
jeez.
Son of
Okay.
It's like it's school wide, elementary school, middle school, high school, and
and
they don't
mRNA
need
probably
parental.
too, right?
Yeah, and they
Oh,
don't need
it's
parental
like a
consent.
flu mist. It's like who's
Yeah, they don't.
administering that? Is
Jeez.
it like a school
The
nurse or who's
teachers,
doing
yeah,
it?
or the
The
nurse, the
teacher?
teachers.
Wow, the
It's very
teachers.
simple. It's very simple. It's just like chew,
Mm-hmm.
chew. It stings. I talked to my
That's
contact over there because I have a woman over there who I'm trying to get my EMF protection clothing line set up through. And she said that she tells her kid to just avoid it, say no, say no, say no, and but most parents don't even know what's happening. They don't have to
Yeah.
do any
they
sort of
don't
things.
have to inform
So
them or get signatures or anything.
no,
Nothing.
it's so
Send from
commonplace
parents.
Oh
over
my
there.
God. And the fact that
Wow.
there are people that would go along with this. Like there are teachers that are
Mm-hmm.
gonna do it.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah,
you have
everyone
to
is. It's
Yeah.
believe
very
that they think it's a
commonplace.
good thing.
Oh
Oh, they
gosh.
all do. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
That's
So
so crazy.
one thing that I've right, one thing that I've noticed is what goes up does come down. So they'll spray chemtrails, and then at night when the pressure drops, that
Mm-hmm.
stuff's all coming down to ground level. I've
Ah,
gone to
yeah.
bed. I've gone to
Mm-hmm.
bed on a night where they're spraying
Mm-hmm.
like crazy, and they zap that stuff, and it's like it's got ripples in it, like fish scales. So they're radiating these particles, and I mean they're electrifying them different ways and radiating them. And then an hour later, the temperatures drop, the pressure drops. It's a nice cool night, and I look up in the sky and I can see the stars. Like
Mm-hmm.
the grid's gone,
Yeah.
but it's because it's come down to ground level. And I've woken up in the middle of the night like hardly able to breathe. Like I mean, I might be a little sensitive, but I've woke up just like literally trying to catch my own breath.
Short of breath.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's from the barium coming down to ground level from their experimentations and stuff like that. I live near one of those big golf balls. Like if I walked outside, I could see it on the top of Mount Ashland. And I do believe that at 3:30 in the morning that they do some sort of frequency here.
Mm-hmm.
Do they do it everywhere? I don't know. Why are they doing it? I think it's because we're sleeping and we're more susceptible.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're hitting us with like a really low ELF thing to
Okay.
keep us like programmed in our low frequency. So they do it every night while we're sleeping, and then it lasts like a day or whatever, and they keep us in a low vibration, like kind of low. I think. I don't know. There could be other things, but I think there's a lot of purposes for those Doppler, NextRad, golf ball radar things. Making heat waves is one thing. Steering weather patterns is one. Like, are they radiating us at night? Like, it depends
Can
on
I
how
share a
close you are to
story
that.
on that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, definitely, Ian. Just one last thing. I
Please.
think, Mark, if you can't see, if it's like miles away kind of thing and you can't see it, I don't think that they're able to like really radiate the crap out of you at night. But if it's like right near the base of the mountain, like I am, I think they're doing it to
Okay.
an extent. But I think it's more like frequency messing with and not just like let's give them cancer kind of thing. But yeah,
Could be all the 5G towers too, though, right?
that
Because
too. I was gonna say that. I was gonna say they could crank it up on the phones and stuff
Easily.
and mess with things at
Well,
night
with all the
that way.
light
and
poles that they
I've been checking out all the parks in the city lately. Some of them shouldn't even be a park 'cause they're so small. But I noticed that one of them that had like baseball diamonds and stuff, swimming pool, and I look across the street and there's these old, this old house, probably, with the American flag, and what's right in their backyard, right in their yard, a 5G tower,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
right
Now
in their yard, yeah.
listen to this, okay? Because
Mhm.
I had lived in the city since whatever 2006 in Montreal. Now, the past recent years where I was living, I can tell you with certainty that I was sensing this very low pulsing. I don't know if you can call it a vibration or whatever, is like a sound that I could most definitely sense. It was like a pulsing, low frequency buzz where I was living in Montreal. Since I've moved out of the off the island of Montreal into a much more like it's like suburban environment near agriculture areas, and there's very few light poles and stations there. It's gone. That buzzing has gone, but I'm telling you, I sensed it very for certain. And unfortunately, like my wife and daughter didn't quite sense it. I don't know. I sensed it for sure, and I can tell the difference. So I
That
believe
would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
It's enough to drive you
it was
crazy.
difficult actually to deal with because I
I
had to
hear
try to
that all
calm
the time.
myself just because it was continuous, especially at night.
Mm-hmm.
So I
think
think
they
that
turn up
ties into what you were saying, Matt. I believe in your idea there, Mark. I'm pretty sure that they're blasting, particularly in urban environments or where they have these stations,
Yeah.
right? They can.
Mm-hmm.
I also think the smart meters, they also play a
Oh, yeah.
role.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yep. There
so
you
they know
go.
everyone's asleep, and they have
Yeah.
these smart meters in certain communities. In some places they don't, and the night they'll turn them up. And then to answer your question, Mark, yes, because then
Okay.
you're right near it. It's in your house, and you are getting radiated at night, and they know that they can mess. They know that they have a sleeping populace, literally,
Yeah.
and that are in their homes, and they're like, okay, everyone's going to be laying down for the next 5 hours or whatever. Let's turn it up while they're sleeping and nuke them, to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
And some people realize it and hear it or whatever. I've started becoming really susceptible to EMF because of my smart meter. I especially noticed it in the middle of the night is when it was really, and it was going,
That's
You heard the sound.
just like that.
This is exactly the sound that I'm talking about, Matt.
Yeah,
I mean,
I could hear it, I could feel it, and at first I was like, I had no idea what was going on at first, and then finally I thought it might be the smart meter, so I started sleeping in the other room further from it, and it was like, oh man, they're like, it was like a surging, ebbing, and flowing frequency
exactly.
that was like root chakra low frequency. I could even feel it in my lower region. Like when I was like waking up kind of in a trance, I was like, what is this? I even told my friends, I think I'm being attacked by electromagnetics or something. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then one day my landlord was like, haha, maybe it's a smart meter. It's right next to your bedroom. And I was like, what? I didn't even know what it was at the time, but I had to go down that path.
Wasn't it just installed? Didn't you say had it just been installed not that long before when he said that to you? Or
no, but there was an instance where I think it might have gotten turned up, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, totally. So people listening, a lot of people, you can opt out of your smart meter and get the old analog. There's a lot of options. You just have to call your power company and see what you can do. Some places they won't do it, but they'll come and move it onto a post, and so it's not right on your home. There are some places that'll accept the doctor's note. It just depends on where you live. It's wild. I had a woman in Wisconsin. A lot of people contact me from Wisconsin with their smart meters, like creating migraines and whatever. But this woman, something about like the Wisconsin Power Company is run by the U.S. military, so you have to go through all these loops to really talk to like who's running it. And at one point, she got them on the phone, and they're like, "Yeah, well, your model is experimental," but she said that the thing was like covered in blood from the birds attacking it. Birds are attacking the smart meter. She's getting these crazy migraines. She's calling them, and they're like, "Okay, well, we'll freaking come." Give you the old one, and then the bird stopped. Her migraine stopped. I mean, like these stories are very real. These are like normal.
Then they charge you more money
people.
because I did it. I did it 4 years ago. I at my old house. I don't live there anymore, but my ex does. But yeah, they charge you more money. They charge $40 to take it off and put the old analog one on, and then they charge $16 a month extra. That was then. I'm sure it's more than that now.
Yeah, they have to come by and look at the analog meter. Why they have if they claim they need the manpower,
They don't come out every month though. They estimate it a lot of the time. So, but anyway, yeah. It's almost like the organic foods, like, oh, you don't want to be poisoned, you have to pay more for that.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with those, you can't even, trust them nowadays, right, Matt?
I know.
Yeah, you never know. I think it's most important to buy local, grow your own food, like support local farmers and all that. Like there's Appeal, like the smaller the grocery store, the better, you know, because they're
Yeah.
buying from a small farmer and all that. One thing that I noticed when I was in the UK is like not very many people even use the word organic or no. I'm very blessed to live in the West Coast of the United States. Very liberal, very ignorant on so many things. Like I could just list them off. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, like the amount of people wearing masks. What's amazing in the United States, I went to Denver and I was there for a few hours. And each terminal is like, oh, we're flying to Korea, we're flying wherever. You can see where they are with it all, like how many people are sitting there waiting to go
Oh,
to
sure.
Kansas versus Seattle, how many people are wearing masks and whatnot. Like you literally see, oh, that
So
place is
people far
totally
from a certain
brainwashed
place.
still and sleeping and thinks this thing is still going on.
That's
And these people are
hilarious.
is very, very obvious. And yeah, but over in the UK, like no one was wearing a mask anymore, which was, I loved that.
Nice.
But also the consciousness surrounding like organic food or organic or eating healthy. Oh, the people in the UK eat very unhealthy, like
Well, no
mayonnaise,
wonder they're
Mayonnaise and
experimenting
everything.
on them. That lines up
Yeah,
completely with what
there
you
is like,
said because they're weak.
Mhm.
They're
yeah,
weak, so they're just like, hey,
mhm.
we can do anything we want to these people. They're-
Yeah, the Queen. I think the whole royal family has kept a lot of people sleeping more over there. There's, you know, but there is a lot of opportunity for people to wake up as well. There is a rising consciousness. It's just they're doing their best to keep it quiet, I guess. You know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Matt, any
So
predictions for the future before we get off? It's especially here in the US.
predictions for the U.S. I think that we're going to have a presidential election this year.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just kidding. I don't know. Like,
No,
it's a popular
there's
question.
no way he's gonna be that trial thing. Like, not that we any of us follow that nonsense. You know, it was all just dog and pony show. You know what I mean? They're not gonna disqualify him off the ballot. You know?
No, it's completely nonsense. People are just being divided. Where I live in liberal, you know, USA, a lot of people say if Trump gets elected, I'm moving to Mexico. And in my eyes, he's already elected. He's going to win. It's going to
Yeah.
be a big mess, and probably they'll like do some election fraud, and some very, very red state will go blue. And then they'll say, oops, we were wrong. And everyone will not trust the system. And Trump
Mhm.
will say some really ignorant things, and people will be completely divided, especially on like socioeconomic, like especially on climate change and global warming issues and stuff like that. But I mean, the whole world thinks that Trump is the solution to our economy, that got gas
Mhm.
prices and inflation went through the roof because of Biden. Trump will come in and he won't fix those problems. And then hope will be lost yet again, because that's the whole game, is to get people all hopeful and then to crush their hopes.
Yeah.
Um, so that seems to be on the agenda. But I think that it's just going to be like a slow and steady burn for a little bit. Like all these
Mhm.
topics are very well concrete in the consciousness. They just need to keep juicing them up and continuing to brainwash everybody. I think the disclosure is really like fascinating. I was reading a random free publication on the airplane, and it was talking about in Nashville, Tennessee, that there's a Parthenon still. So from the World Fair, in the middle of Nashville, Tennessee, is a full-on Parthenon, just like in Greece, same size and everything, perfectly made of stone and everything. That was the official story is from the World Fair that they built just for a temporary structure, but it was so nice that they left it. You know, it's still there and built in stone, exact replica of the Parthenon. And I think it's really fascinating that like airplane magazines are still like pressing this like brainwashing narrative on the people so that they can get to them first. Because I think that there is like set in stone, there is supposed to be like a rising consciousness, and it's happening. You know, here and there, people are starting to like grasp where we are and what's actually happening. You know, it's a very deep, weird, dark spiritual battle, and the cracks are starting to show. Um, but I think like the AI, it wants to like wiggle its way into our world.
Mhm.
So it's just going to be like this slow and steady acceptance of AI. and they've got people like lining up for the next upgrades of everything it could possibly be. So eventually Elon Musk will be like, well, my son's doing it. Don't you want to have a chip in your brain? And, you know, it's like they've got everybody right where they want them. I think, honestly, if I'm going to talk about conspiracies, this solar flare thing, I think, is very much coming into the consciousness. Like, solar flares are going to knock out the power, and likely that'll be used to push geoengineering as another solution to that. Put an aluminum blanket between us and the sun, and we won't get blasted by the sun as much, you know? And then we can't lose our social media for a week like they maybe plan. I think
We should probably look at movies, because whatever they put in the movies is what they're planning on doing. Because it's like
programming.
they put
They really do. It seems like that's another
like,
form of disclosure or conditioning, you know, but I think that it's a disclosure mechanism. Like, we have to tell the people what's happening so that we have choice, because we live in a realm of we're supposed to have, you know, freedom of choice, even though it's being hijacked and cornered and twisted and psyoped and, you know, flipped upside down. But, you know, we're supposed to have something. That's probably, you know, why they let things even exist. Like Allyson, you said, like, they could just line us up and shoot us all. Yeah, they could.
Yeah,
They
really.
could completely. They could delete all the truther stuff off the internet overnight and be like, yeah, we passed a bill for, you know, America. But it's like they have to have this ability for us to see it. It seems.
That's why I think it's a game.
It really is.
They enjoy it. They know that only a small amount of people are gonna see it. They could, exactly what you just said. Yeah, they don't have to let us see anything. And I'm sure there's places that are like that. You're not gonna find it. I tried to send something to somebody in the UK, and it was BitChute, and he can't even access it. Like anything on BitChute.
BitChute has some
Can
countries that you can't access.
I've tried to send him stuff, and he
It'll
can't
tell you
open it
too on
or
your account,
anything.
Matt, what countries your video is available in. It'll show the world map, the globe, or whatever, and say, like, mine says available in all countries, but
it's like right here in Canada, we can't, like, any news source, you can't
even share that out.
On social media. Any news source, alternative or mainstream.
You can't share it?
You can't share it. Yeah.
No.
Wow.
Anything from Canada. It's like that. It's draconian.
Because we are going to all share it around here and go, look at the crap that's going on there. And then we would end up trying to wake you guys up.
Well, yeah, we can't, like, we just have to share among ourselves on YouTube and other mediums,
my God.
but you can't do it on the main social
prison.
Yeah.
It's just
Matt, I know you're not
visible
on
prison.
I know you're not on TikTok. That's like my most active platform. But now what they're doing, you know, is when you're on TikTok and you comment on somebody's video or post, they automatically throw it into your story and blast it in your stories. So even if you don't want it on there, it just started. I'm like,
wow.
You mean that little bubble that floats up, that little thing?
You know, your story, what's in your story? Like I share out my videos in my stories. Well, you comment on something, and, you know, I'll comment on one of my friends in Finland, like, you know, she'll be doing a dance or something. It went into my stories, or you'll comment on something that you know, history is a lie, and explaining it, saying my aunt did that. It went right into my stories. They don't even give you a choice.
That's out of control.
Yeah.
Do you have TikTok, Matt?
No,
I was
taken off.
I had my my TikTok channel was removed, but I set up a new one, and it's Sparrow Protection now.
Oh, great!
So
I'll follow you.
I'm plugging along over there.
Nice.
AR or ER?
SPERO.
That's what I thought.
Protection. I had Sparrow gear, and I got a little. See, the thing is I get a little carried away, you know. And so I'm blessed to have an assistant in between me to mitigate my craziness, because otherwise I would have lost everything by now. So my employee, she does our Instagram, which I'm glad, because I would have lost that. So we have a Sparrow Gear Instagram. She does the TikTok over there.
I'll look that up too.
Because when I had the TikTok before, I was posting videos every day. Space is fake. Chemtrails are real. And they hated my chemtrail videos. Like, I would just post someone's like, oh, look at the sky. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
they
no,
remove it
other people
a
are
week
getting
later.
chemtrails taken down. Yeah,
Yeah, but not
I
even
did
like,
too on that.
TikTok's big
I
time
mean,
censored. Big time.
like literally like, oh, look at the scar today. And they remove it a week later, community standard violation, you know? And so I got my whole account removed, but I had a few videos that went totally viral on there.
Mhm.
And now there's a TikTok shop. So I really wish that I had that TikTok still alive, but whatever, we'll just work with what we got. But is the TikTok shop something? Is it cool? Is it good? Do people use it? What's up? You guys know
I
anything
think
about
they
this?
do, but people are selling like I bought what was it, a $5 microphone, for my phone, and it didn't do anything. I don't even use it. It didn't even
Sorry.
work. It broke. No, so
Yeah,
they're
Chinese
pushing
crap,
stuff,
yeah.
but like a lot of it is a lot of the TikTok shop. Well, this is with the algorithm and who I'm following. A lot of people are selling like the Free Palestine shirts and stuff. That's all. That's what I see. Those and like
That's trending. I
microphones.
could see that trending. Yeah, that could be a
Yeah.
trending thing right now. I mean, I couldn't believe that. Oh, well, the whole world's anti Israeli war, which I'm happy about. Like, there's protests all over. I think we talked about
But
that last time
the
I was on the
problem
show.
too, Matt, the one thing, and I think you'll agree with me, the way to wake these people up, more and more people up, is they think that the solution is UN or WHO. They think that these organizations are humanitarian organizations, and I'll put out videos and say, look, no, this is not. They're not humanitarian organizations. Look at what's happening over there in Palestine. They
Hmm.
are ignoring it. Nothing's being done whatsoever.
Yeah.
And people are waking up to that those organizations are not on your side.
It's very divisive here in Canada because
Mhm.
there's a lot of Palestinian protests going on. They're Hamas, so really, it's not Palestinian; it's more Hamas,
Mm.
uh, type of rallies, and they've been gone on campuses and they've camp out on campuses in the universities, and they go into Jewish neighborhoods and they actually harass Jewish people
Mm.
as well. So the irony here is that when we had the Freedom Rally, which was the most peaceful, mass process in
Yeah.
all the history of Canada, most certainly, probably in a lot of places, they came down with the Emergency Act measures. They're actually deaths. There's like threats. They're celebrating October 7th. They actually actively call out for the destruction
Mm.
of the Israel state. So rather than blaming both of those governments, they actually going after now the Jewish people. So there's like a lot of anti-Semitism, that has now arisen, and it's puts these woke agendas, people in kind of a very tricky spot because
Hmm.
you know
You
so
have to see that documentary though, Ian, Israelism. And it's
yeah.
much different in the US because we are Israel. We're not
No,
US
no, that
anymore. You know
I'm
what I
very
mean?
well,
Yeah, you know
believe
what
me,
I
I'm
mean.
very well aware of that and how Zionism
But
has
I know what
has,
you
has
mean about those groups in Canada. And it's different because Matt, one thing I got a friend that works at UCLA, and he's one of us. He gets, I mean, unfortunately he got his shots, but other than that, he gets what's going on in the world, you know. And those protesters are not, Trump supporters. This is the narrative. Trump supporters say, and this is what they say: wipe out Palestine, wipe out Palestine. They'll infiltrate the TikTok lives of the peaceful protests in the U.S. I think the protests in the U.S. are a bit different than Canada, and I don't think that the Trump supporters and these idiots who worship the flag, right? The flag, which is basically Israel. It's not U.S. flag. There's no, none of us worship the flag to begin with, but
course.
they're like wipe out. We need to wipe out. You
What are these
know,
like paid operatives or something?
no, they just go on there.
Oh,
They're brainwashed people who are
oh.
part of the Trump's my God, Trump's my God, Trump's my God, Trump's my God. We got to stand with Israel. Trump is my God, and they'll say, just they're anti-humanitarian, and they'll say we got to wipe out Palestine. We got to floor it to the ground, and they say go over there and protest and all this stuff. Even I don't know if you knew this, Allison. Even one of the guys called them, one of the representatives in the U.S. calls them little Gazas. Anyways, what happened in L.A., where it's a heavy Zionist, area, they had people from Beverly Hills High School go to the UCLA protest and infiltrate, go after the people who were, pro-peace, pro-Palestine, all that, and they got caught doing it. But what's so funny is, get this, all the news medias came out with one story. It's this one guy, and it was a completely, you know how they use those fake names. It was completely, my friend's like, no, I don't believe that it was only one guy, and it was this guy's name. It was like Billy Light or something like, it wasn't that, but some absurd name that you know was completely made up. But it was true that people were coming from Beverly Hills High School who were going to join the IDF after high school to go and infiltrate these peaceful protests. You know, so
Yeah, I mean, and just to give you an idea of like the dynamic here in Canada, Antifa has become almost like they are joined up very closely with these the Palestinian protests. So just to give you an idea. So like I said, it's like, yeah, you got like, you know, we know that there's a Zionist agenda that's happening, but also the Hamas, and it's like it's just trying to amplify a divide and conquer. Most definitely, it's just ramping up the emotions off the chart.
But in the US, I don't buy the narrative that all, you know, they want to think that all these people are paid by Soros. People were commenting saying they're paid by Biden. Biden's a Zionist.
Yeah,
I don't think Biden's going to be.
No, you're right. No, exactly.
He's obsessed with Israel. Yeah, all these
but they pay
officials
on
are
both
obsessed
sides.
with
They support
Yeah, I
both
know.
sides because
It's just honestly a stupid conversation. It's like, with what money? We don't even have any money.
Yeah,
We're supposedly
exactly. We just need
truly,
Allison to be our president. Come on.
nobody has any money. We don't have any money. They make money out
No.
of thin air. So why don't they just
Yeah.
make some?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like the whole purpose of taxing us, so you just the biggest argument you can make is that, okay, so what did they do before they actually taxed and they built all this infrastructure? Well, they created money. So why do you not bother like taxing to use it for all these things when they can print it out of thin air anyways?
Because I think it's just to take it away from
just
us. It's
just
not
to
that
take it
they
away.
need it. They don't need it. They just
Economic
need us
slavery.
to not have it. They need us
Yeah.
broke.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think we've gone on, you know, long enough. We've, you know, had a really great conversation once again, and I really appreciate all of you, you know, not only taking a stand, but coming on and just explaining what's going on in your part of the world, what's going on worldwide, and just taking a stand for humanity, you know.
Thanks, Mark. Well, also
Yes.
thanks
Thank you.
for providing an
Yeah.
opportunity. And I'm always learning something whenever I join these podcasts as well. Like,
Yeah.
so just
And worst case scenario, Ian, the three of us so-called Americans will come and save you.
looking forward to it because we need we need help up here, man. It's well, I think the tide is turning, to be honest. It really is like this. Oh, geez, you could the scandals that are coming out and just the foreign interference, everything. It's a whole podcast just on its own.
Yeah. All right. Well, much love to the world. You know, take a stand and get off your phones, you know, and your iPads and explore nature, you know.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you, Mark.
All right.